When we talk about building bigger arms through the science of hypertrophy, we need to start with the foundation. Understanding exactly what hypertrophy is and how it actually happens inside the muscle. Most people think muscle growth is about lifting heavy weights and chasing the pump, but that's only part of the story. The real process is biological and surprisingly structured. Hypertrophy is the enlargement of muscle fibers through consistent, repeated mechanical stress. Every time you perform a curl, a press, or an extension, you're applying tension to your muscle fibers. That tension creates microscopic tears in the muscle tissue, tiny disruptions that your body perceives as a signal to adapt. It's this adaptation process that leads to muscle growth, not the workout itself. The workout is simply the trigger, the message you send to your body that says, we need more muscle to handle this. Now, there are three main drivers of hypertrophy: mechanical tension, muscle damage, and metabolic stress. Think of these as the holy trinity of muscle growth. Mechanical tension is the primary one. It's the force generated when your muscles contract under load. This tension stimulates muscle fibers and sets off a cascade of molecular signals that activate protein synthesis, the actual process that builds muscle. Muscle damage happens when you push those fibers past their current capacity, creating those small tears that your body needs to repair. And metabolic stress, often referred to as the pump, is the buildup of metabolites like lactate and hydrogen ions during high rep or time under tension training. This stress increases cellular swelling and triggers growth-related pathways. But here's where people get it wrong. More damage doesn't mean more growth. In fact, excessive damage can delay recovery and blunt long-term progress. Hypertrophy isn't about annihilating your muscles every session. It's about strategically overloading them so they can adapt and grow stronger. Think of it as controlled destruction. You want enough stimulus to make the muscle say, okay, we need to grow, but not so much that your body spends the next week just trying to repair itself instead of progressing. This is why the concept of stimulus to fatigue ratio is so critical. You're not chasing soreness, you're chasing efficient adaptation. A good arm workout leaves you feeling worked, maybe a bit pumped, but not wrecked. Now, when we zoom in on arm hypertrophy specifically, it's important to understand the anatomy you're working with. The biceps brachii, the brachialis, and the triceps brachii all contribute to arm size and shape. The biceps are responsible for elbow flexion and supination. Think curling and turning your palm upward. The triceps extend the elbow and make up roughly 2/3 of the arm's total mass, which means if you want truly big arms, you can't just curl. You need to press and extend as well. Balanced arm training means stimulating both the flexors and extensors through full ranges of motion with proper control. What drives hypertrophy in these muscles isn't fancy exercises or shock methods. It's consistent, progressive tension applied over time. Your body doesn't care if you're using a dumbbell, a cable, or a machine. It only cares about how much force the muscle produces and how close you get to failure. That's the real secret. When your reps get hard, when you're grinding out those last few controlled contractions with perfect form, that's where the growth signal happens. That's when the muscle is being told it's not strong enough, and your body in its infinite wisdom responds by growing it. A key mistake many lifters make when training for hypertrophy is chasing performance metrics that don't actually align with muscle growth. They focus on lifting heavier every week, even if it means their form breaks down and the target muscle does less work. Remember, hypertrophy is about the muscle doing the most mechanical work, not your ego. The muscle doesn't know how much weight is on the bar, it only knows how much tension it's under. So if you swing your arms during curls or use momentum to push through extensions, you're robbing your muscles of that precious tension. Control the eccentric phase, the lowering portion of each rep, because that's where a lot of the microtrauma and signaling for growth occurs. Slow it down, keep tension throughout, and make each rep meaningful. Another crucial aspect is understanding that muscles grow as an adaptive response, not as an emotional one. You can't bully your arms into growth by doing marathon workouts or endless sets. Muscles adapt based on the balance between stress and recovery. Too little stress, and there's no reason to grow. Too much stress, and the body prioritizes survival and repair, not adaptation. Your goal is to find that sweet spot where the training is challenging enough to disrupt homeostasis, but not so extreme that you dig a recovery hole you can't climb out of. That's what science-based hypertrophy is all about. Precision, not punishment. The real magic happens after the workout, when your body begins the repair process. During recovery, muscle protein synthesis ramps up, satellite cells activate, and new proteins are laid down to reinforce and enlarge the existing fibers. Over time, this leads to visible growth. But here's the thing. This adaptation only happens if you repeat the stimulus consistently. One great arm day doesn't build muscle. Weeks, months, and years of smart progressive training do. It's a cumulative process. Every well-executed rep adds a microscopic layer of growth, and that's how you eventually build impressive arms. Not overnight, but over time. So when we talk about the science of hypertrophy for arm growth, we're really talking about a methodical system of stress, recovery, and adaptation. You apply targeted tension through precise controlled training, you allow the body to recover and rebuild, and you repeat the process with progressive overload. That's the science, not random effort, not muscle confusion, but consistent, evidence-based progression. The gym is where you deliver the message. Your body through recovery is where that message becomes muscle. And the more clearly and consistently you communicate that signal through good training, the bigger and stronger your arms will become. When it comes to maximizing arm hypertrophy, the real difference between average and extraordinary results lies in how you manipulate the training variables: volume, intensity, and frequency. These three pillars determine how effectively your muscles adapt and grow. Most people love to train hard, but few train smart. They go into the gym, throw around some weights, chase a pump, and leave without ever considering whether their training volume or intensity is actually optimized for growth. To truly understand how to build bigger arms, you need to stop guessing and start programming with precision. Let's start with training volume, which is essentially the total amount of hard work your muscles perform. It's the number of effective sets that challenge the muscle enough to stimulate growth. Too little volume and your muscles simply maintain too much, and you can dig yourself into fatigue without ever recovering properly. The sweet spot for most trained individuals usually sits between 10 and 20 hard sets per muscle group per week. For arms, that means 10 to 20 sets for biceps, and the same for triceps. Beginners can start on the lower end of that range, while more advanced lifters with better recovery capacity can push toward the higher end. What matters most is progression. Over time, as your body adapts, you'll need to slowly increase your volume to continue seeing results. But never jump too fast. If you're growing at 12 sets per week, there's no reason to suddenly do 20. Always find the minimum effective dose that still drives progress. Next comes intensity. How hard you're actually working in those sets. In hypertrophy training, intensity isn't about lifting the heaviest possible weight. It's about how close you are to failure. If you stop your set with 5 or 6 reps left in the tank, you haven't done enough to send the muscle a strong growth signal. On the other hand, taking every set to absolute failure can create unnecessary fatigue, hurt your recovery, and limit your training quality later in the week. The ideal approach is to train most sets within 1 to 3 reps of failure, what's called proximity to failure. This level of effort gives you the best balance between stimulus and fatigue. You're working hard enough to trigger adaptation, but not so hard that you compromise recovery. When you finish a set, you should feel like you might have been able to grind out 1 or 2 more reps, but no more than that. That's the sweet spot for long-term hypertrophy. Form and execution also play a massive role in intensity. The muscle doesn't care about how much weight you move, it cares about the tension you place on it. Perfect technique ensures that the right muscles are being overloaded, not your joints or connective tissue. For biceps, that means keeping your elbows stable, controlling the eccentric, and avoiding momentum. For triceps, it means maintaining shoulder stability and locking out under control instead of snapping through reps. If you want your arms to grow, you need to make every rep count. That means full range of motion, consistent tempo, and tension from start to finish. Half reps, jerking, or cheating your way through sets only reduce the effective stimulus and increase the risk of injury. Think about contracting the muscle, not just moving the weight. Each rep should feel like a deliberate, high-quality contraction, not a swing or a throw. Then, we have frequency. How often you train your arms each week? If you're only training arms once per week and expecting maximum hypertrophy, you're leaving gains on the table. Muscles don't grow in a single session. They grow in response to repeated, frequent stimuli. For most people, training arms 2 to 3 times per week is the sweet spot. This allows you to distribute your total weekly volume across multiple sessions, keeping each one high in quality. Instead of doing 15 sets of curls in one exhausting session, you might do 5 sets 3 times a week. This not only improves performance, but also enhances recovery and keeps muscle protein synthesis elevated more consistently throughout the week. The more often you stimulate your muscles within your recovery limits, the more opportunities you give them to grow. Regressive overload ties all of these factors together. No matter how perfectly you train, your muscles will eventually adapt, and what was once challenging will become easy. That's when you need to gradually increase the demand. You can add a bit of weight, perform an extra rep or two, or slightly increase total volume over time. The key word here is gradually. The body thrives on small, consistent progressions, not massive jumps. If you add 10 pounds to your curls 1 week but sacrifice form, you've gained nothing. But if you add 1 rep per set over a few weeks, that's real sustainable progress. The goal isn't to shock the muscle with random changes, it's to systematically and predictably increase the workload in a controlled way. Another crucial element of training optimization is exercise selection. While variety can be beneficial for targeting different regions of the arm, too much variety can scatter your focus. Pick a few key movements that you can progressively overload over time, like barbell curls, incline dumbbell curls, rope pushdowns, and closed grip presses, and get brutally strong at them. Switch them up only when you've plateaued for an extended period or when you need to reduce joint stress. Consistency in movement patterns allows you to better track progress and understand what's truly working for your body. Don't be seduced by novelty. Mastery beats randomness every time. Lastly, the mindset you bring to each session matters. Hypertrophy training isn't about surviving the workout. It's about maximizing every rep, every set, every contraction. You should approach your arm training like a craftsman, refining each movement to produce the most precise stimulus possible. When you lift with intention, you'll notice subtle improvements, stronger contractions, better pumps, smoother control. That's how elite physiques are built, through deliberate repetition of simple, effective movements done with focus and intensity. At the end of the day, muscle growth is predictable when you understand and manipulate the variables that matter. Volume gives your muscles the total workload they need to adapt. Intensity ensures that workload is challenging enough to create change. And frequency allows you to repeat the process often enough to keep progress steady. Combine these with consistent form, gradual progression, and patient effort, and your arms will grow, not through luck or genetics, but through science applied with discipline. That's the essence of true hypertrophy training. Deliberate, evidence-based execution repeated over time until excellence becomes inevitable. Most people think muscle growth is all about training, lifting heavier, pushing harder, and doing more reps. But here's the truth. You don't actually grow in the gym. You grow when you recover from the gym. The process of hypertrophy is fundamentally one of stress and recovery. The gym is where you apply the stress, and recovery is where the real magic happens. If you train like a beast but sleep poorly, eat inconsistently, or never give your body the rest it needs, you're simply spinning your wheels. Growth requires a full-circle approach. Smart training, quality nutrition, proper sleep, and patient consistency. Without recovery, training is just glorified fatigue. Think about what happens during your workout. You're creating micro tears in muscle tissue, depleting glycogen stores, and putting stress on your nervous system. After that, your body immediately starts trying to fix the damage. It increases protein synthesis, shuttles nutrients into the muscle, and works to make those fibers stronger and thicker so the same stress doesn't hurt as much next time. But here's the catch. That process only happens efficiently when you give your body enough recovery resources. If you're constantly in a calorie deficit, sleeping 5 hours a night, or hitting the gym without rest days, you're disrupting that recovery cycle. You're giving your muscles no opportunity to rebuild, meaning the damage just accumulates and adaptation slows down. Sleep is the #1 recovery tool, yet it's the most neglected. During deep sleep, growth hormone peaks, tissue repair accelerates, and your nervous system resets. Missing sleep doesn't just make you tired. It directly reduces your body's ability to synthesize protein and recover from training. If you're serious about hypertrophy, you should treat sleep like part of your program. Aim for 7 to 9 hours every night, ideally with consistent sleep and wake times. Quality matters too. A dark, cool, quiet environment can dramatically improve your recovery. You can nail your workouts and your diet, but if your sleep is garbage, you'll still hit a plateau faster than you expect. Now, let's talk nutrition. The fuel that powers recovery. Muscles need the raw materials to grow, and that comes from what you eat. Protein is the cornerstone here because it provides the amino acids necessary for muscle repair. A good target for most lifters is around 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Spread it across the day in 3 to 5 meals, each containing a decent protein source. Carbohydrates are also crucial, especially if you're training hard. They replenish glycogen stores and provide energy for both recovery and your next session. Don't fear carbs. They're your friend when it comes to building muscle. Fats play their role too, supporting hormone function and overall health. A balanced approach works best. Enough protein for repair, enough carbs for fuel, and enough fats for hormonal balance. One mistake people make is thinking that as long as they eat enough, they're covered. But hypertrophy works best when you're in a small caloric surplus. Not a massive bulk that adds unnecessary fat, but just enough extra energy to support muscle building. Around 200 to 300 calories above maintenance is plenty for most people. That extra energy tells your body that it's safe to invest in growth instead of just maintaining or surviving. If you're under-eating while training hard, you're fighting your own biology. You can't build muscle efficiently without giving your body the resources it needs to do so. Recovery isn't just physical, it's systemic. The nervous system takes a beating during intense training, and mental fatigue can reduce performance just as much as muscle soreness. Stress from daily life, lack of relaxation, and constant stimulation can all interfere with recovery. Learning to manage stress is a powerful tool for hypertrophy. Meditation, walks, reading, or even just unplugging from screens for a while can make a noticeable difference in how you feel and perform. When you're calmer, you sleep better, recover faster, and train harder. Training intensity should be balanced with lifestyle intensity. If you're constantly stressed out, your body prioritizes survival over muscle building. Rest days are another piece people often overlook. They think more training means more results, but that's not how the body works. Training breaks you down. Recovery builds you up. If you're never resting, you're always breaking down. Scheduling at least 1 or 2 rest days per week allows your body to repair the microdamage from training, refill glycogen, and reset your energy systems. Active recovery can help too. Light movement, stretching, or mobility work keeps blood flowing and speeds up nutrient delivery to the muscles without adding more stress. Think of rest days not as lost time, but as the foundation for your next great workout. Consistency ties all these pieces together. Hypertrophy is not an event, it's a long-term process of small adaptations that compound over time. Missing one meal or one night of sleep won't kill your progress, but consistently neglecting recovery will. The lifters who make the most progress aren't the ones who train the hardest for a month. They're the ones who train intelligently, recover deliberately, and stay on track for years. Every night of quality sleep, every well-balanced meal, every well-timed rest day, they all add up. Over months and years, these habits produce visible results. Recovery also teaches patience and discipline. It reminds you that you can't force the body to grow faster than it's capable of. You can guide it, support it, and give it every possible advantage, but you can't rush biology. The body adapts at its own pace, and respecting that process is key. Instead of constantly chasing faster results, focus on executing the fundamentals perfectly. Train hard, recover well, eat smart, and repeat. Over time, that steady rhythm creates the kind of transformation that's both sustainable and impressive. So when people talk about the science of hypertrophy, they often focus on sets, reps, and exercises, but the real science includes recovery too. It's the other half of the equation. Without recovery, training is just stress. With recovery, it becomes adaptation. The gym is where you challenge your muscles. Recovery is where those challenges turn into growth. Sleep feeds your hormones, nutrition feeds your muscles, and consistency feeds your progress. Respect all three, and your arms will grow, not because of luck or genetics, but because you gave your body exactly what it needed to thrive. That's how science builds muscle, through patience, precision, and recovery. That's every bit as intentional as your training.